Now it's time for the mini talk about Tate. And our guest speakers today will be Dr. Robert Kling, Dr. Stephen Lees, Ms. Hien Dao. So a little bit about our guest speakers. Dr. Kling is the coordinator of the joint program between CSU and Foreign Trade University. He has been to Vietnam several times, and he's one of the CSU professors that have this strong and close relationship with our Vietnamese students. Dr. Lees is the advisor of VSA at CSU. He had also been to Vietnam several times. One special thing about him is that he is married to a lovely Vietnamese woman. And Ms. Hien Dao is one of the former FTU students, and she just got her master in economics. So please join me to welcome our guest speakers on stage. Okay, are you guys ready?
We don't know.
Sure. I'm not sure.
So thank you so much for joining the mini talk with us today. And because the shortage of time, we'll be mainly focusing on talking about your Tet or Lunar New Year experience. Okay? So let's start off with you, Bob. Can I call you that?
Yes, of course.
All right. So you have been in all of our Tet celebration.
I think so.
Since 2011.
That's right.
So what do you think about this particular event?
I think it's fun because I think it's one way that all of us here in Fort Collins can enjoy a little bit of, Vietnamese culture imported, which we normally cannot experience. And of course, it's a very important time of the year, and so it's fun to celebrate together.
It's cool. So, Steve, I guess you look at Tet a little bit different because you're married to a Vietnamese woman. That makes you an insider now, right? So, do you celebrate Tet, and how important is Tet to your family?
That's working. Right up under your mouth. Okay. Actually, Tet is very important, but we also look at it a bit differently because we experienced Tet, or I've experienced Tet specifically over in Vietnam since 1999. So we compare it there, and we've actually managed to go back to Hanoi a number of times during Tet. So we're trying to make sure that Joseph and Maya, who are sitting right back there, raise your hands, have an appreciation for what Tet is, as well as what other holidays are, and are able to keep them all equal. And actually, Tet is probably a little bit more important.
That's cool. So, Hien, I know that Tet is important to you because you're a Vietnamese. Can you tell a little bit about typical Tet, your typical Tet in Vietnam?
So yes, I'm one of the Vietnamese students, so Tet is critically the most important holiday season in Vietnam. For me personally, and I believe for everyone Vietnamese here, Tet has a lot of meanings. It has religious meaning, spiritual meaning. To me, for all of us, I think it's one of the chance that we have to communicate with the dead. We sit at the altar. We have the food dish over there, where we can. That's the only chance we have to communicate with the dead, our ancestors who have gone to heaven, and we believe that they fly all over the way from heaven to here, spend 3 days with us during the Tet, and will come back to their world after 3 days. Beside the dead, Tet is also important because it's the chance that we look at ourselves, we self-reflect, and we make new promise to ourselves for the New Year's. Whatever we did last year is not in our to-do list. We have to do it now. For me personally. Furthermore, Tet is a chance for a family to gather up. It's like your Christmas here. It's a little sacred for me. It's like the moment of the New Year's Eve. For example, in your Christmas Eve here, when you hear the bell rings in the church, it's like when me hear the clock rang at 12 a.m. It's the New Year. And I feel something very sacred in the air. It's like our ancestors here flying around. I know it's a little weird, but it is. Tet is important because it's the first 3 days of the year. So we believe that anything happens during that 3 days will affect the rest of the year. So during that 3 days, people try to do really great things to bring luck to themselves, and to the families. We have salt, fire, red decorations that bring luck and money and wealth and health, whatever. We believe it will stay with us for the whole year. And fireworks is used to fight away the devils, but it's forbidden now. So we replace it with the red decoration. Yes, that's it.
So, what is the difference between the way we celebrate Tet in Vietnam and with the VSA in the US?
Okay, so my Tet in Vietnam actually lasts for about 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, starting from the first week of the week before the Tet is when our kitchen god leave our kitchens to go to the heaven, and they travel by the carps. You know, this
Fish, right?
Yeah, it's one kind of fish, and that's when they come to the heaven. They report what happened in our family to the Jade Emperor during that 1 year. So we want it to be a nice report. We prepare a great travel for them to the heaven. And my Tet lasts during that 1 week, and then the week after is family gathering. It's all family. It's so chill. But for here, it's not family kind of to me, but it's friends. So we're doing an event and that we have to host a lot of activities. We have to make sure our programs look great to our foreign friends and to everyone. So it's kind of a bigger responsibilities, and especially when I played a part in it, I feel a little more important. Whereas in Vietnam, I'm just one of the members, just chilling and relaxed, enjoying Tet.
Cool. So get back to you, Bob. Have you experienced any Tet holiday in Vietnam?
No, not in Vietnam.
Okay. So I wish you have a chance to do that someday.
I hope so.
Yeah, but you've been in all of our Tet celebration. So how differently do Americans and Vietnamese celebrate New Year? Is that challenging?
Well, of course, the part of Tet that I see when it happens here is kind of short and sweet, I think, compared to normal celebration at home, right? So I think one thing to say is that, at least from what I observe, for the Vietnamese Lunar New Year, there's much more focus on food. And perhaps the American version has much more focus on drink. Other than that, I think perhaps the Vietnamese Tet is much more meaningful to people in their hearts than normal Western New Year's is.
For me, looking at Tet in Vietnam versus here, or versus the Western holidays, is if you can imagine taking Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and Easter, and putting them all together, that's Tet. So I think it's changing a little bit in Vietnam now from watching it go from 1999 to 2015, which was the last one that I really saw in Vietnam. But it used to be everybody would be going home. So if you didn't buy train tickets 3 or 4 months in advance, you would not be able to get where you wanted to be. And then the whole country was moving. Here, we just all come together here. And it's sort of like a mass Thanksgiving movement that you have here. I don't know if anyone's from the East Coast, but I used to go from Washington, D.C. to Ohio at Thanksgiving. And you would get stuck at this one intersection for about 6 hours. So it's like that multiplied by 100. And then the first day of Tet, you wake up in the morning and there's nobody on the street. When I was in Hanoi, the second year that I lived in Vietnam, I lived there from 1999 until 2007. I walked out on the day of Tet, and it was wonderful. There was no pollution. There were no motorcycles. There was absolutely nothing. But also, every single shop was closed. So if you had not stocked up with food, you were not going to eat for that day, unless you had family members, because literally everything shut down. And in 2001, a friend of mine, they were just starting to build the Ho Chi Minh Highway. He got in his motorcycle, and over Tet, he drove down the Ho Chi Minh Highway because he could do it. Nobody would stop him. Before, it was all shut off because they were still under construction. He did it, and he said he was the only motorcycle on the road for 3 days. You know, that's how much Tet means, I think, over there, just an indication. Everything, especially that first 12 hours of Tet, it's totally family. And then slowly people start to go out and get around.
Yeah, that's a really good observation. Steve, so that brings me to a question that I always wanted to ask you, because you have two lovely kids. And how do you nurture the Asian culture in your family? You know, how do you educate your kid about it, and do they love to know about it?
I think they do. Zum does a lot of that, telling them what it was like. And we get over to Vietnam about every 18 months. So we're over there for a couple weeks every 18 months. Plus, they're on Skype a lot. They talk to their cousins. And it's very interesting now because Joseph used to speak Vietnamese really well. He still understands it. But because his cousins speak English, when they get together, they always speak English. Maya also understands Vietnamese. And I think they're both very happy about that and proud of that.
That's cool. So I know that you're lucky because you're married to a good cook. So we changed the topic a little bit. So what is your favorite food for Tet?
You want the truth?
Up to you.
Actually, there's some different food which is very interesting. You know, beng chung is very interesting. Fried beng chung, about a week after it was made, is good. Beng ngao, but I don't know if that's the actual name for it. The one you made last night from yeah, is it beng ngok or beng ngao? Beng ngao, yeah. You know, that's sweet and nice. But Tet always struck me that it's during the coldest time of the year. There's almost no fresh vegetables. It's very hard to find. I mean, you have fresh fruit, but not that many. If you're in the countryside. So food is sort of like the European food during the winter months, where it's something which is preserved, or it's not, to me, it's not the best Vietnamese food, truthfully. I mean, it has meaning, but it's not the tastiest, it's not the absolute best, but it has a real cultural meaning.
That's cool. So Bob, how about you then? You've tasted a lot of good food here. What are your favorite dishes out of all the foods that you tasted?
Well, I don't think I've found any Vietnamese food that I don't like. So I love it all, but I found Steve's comments interesting about why some of these things might be eaten in the winter compared with all the other choices that they can come from Vietnamese cuisine. And I guess because I like Vietnamese food so much and I eat it so frequently and love this huge variety, I do enjoy what can be special about Tet. For example, beng chung. So
that's cool. So talking about food, here and I know that our students have worked really hard to prepare the mouth-watering dishes that we're gonna enjoy later this afternoon. And you are one of the leaders in the cuisine team. Can you tell me more a little bit about the preparation process?
The preparation process starts 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And then we went far away to Denver market to get the ingredients last week. we have to do it early because or else it ran out. And I think we did a great teamwork. We did great teamwork. As you can see, there is a great display of food, great quality. Else it's really stressful at times, but I think we made it.
That's good. That's good. So we're kind of running out of time for the mini talk. I don't want to keep you guys here all the time. So thank you so much for participating. And before we move on to the next part, we have some souvenir that we want to give to you guys. Some Bengqing, the one that you guys have been mentioning all the time about it.
Oh, wow.
And can you guys stand up for us?